World Exclusive comes up at 9 p.m. tonight, and I want to bring in Anjana Kashyap, who joins me on this broadcast. Anjana, describe to us that interview, the key takeaways, and that question that you asked him. He's been in power for 25 years in Russia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been in power for 11 years in India, and they complement each other. How are they taking this relationship forward, Anjana?
Absolutely, Gaurav. And the biggest takeaway, according to me, in this entire interview was his attitude towards India and his acknowledgement of the fact that we are not working against a country. Because, as a journalist, you go round and round when you want him to speak on a certain issue. And when it came to the India-America relationship, we were very, the Russia-America relationship, I beg your pardon, we were very clear that we wanted his message to the Western world. He was very clear. I am not looking for a fight with the Western world. But if NATO goes back on its word of expansion towards the East, the situation has arisen. But again, I am going to strengthen a multipolar world. And his love for this Russia, India, China triangle that we often talk about was very clear. He was very clear. He was looking for moments or occasions when he could literally slip in India's growth story. That was the best part of the entire interview, but because I was talking to him about the West. But what was he doing? He was trying to slip in the growth story of India. That clearly showed that he realizes the strength of India-Russia relationship, the 7 decades that it has withstood all storms, the challenges it has faced in spite of sanctions by the West after the Russia-Ukraine war, and tariffs on India. Increased tariffs on India just because we are buying oil. And there was one line that's going to create multiple waves when he categorically said that America buys nuclear energy from us and then they try to preach India. I think that is the biggest takeaway of this interview, which summarizes the whole world scenario today. You cannot have dual standards. And also on terrorism, I asked him, your freedom fighter, your terrorist, my freedom fighter, how does the world deal with this dual standard on terrorism? He answered that very categorically. But when he came to this entire issue of multipolarity and how India-Russia relations matter, how India has been slapped with tariffs of that magnitude, he was very clear. He said, these are dual standards, because he said the Western world is buying nuclear energy from us and then they preach India about buying oil from Russia and then impose tariffs. So I think he was very clear. It was so interesting to see Vladimir Putin just slip in the India growth story in the context of the world and tell the world. The other biggest takeaway, according to me, was that he said, G8, I don't want to go back to G8. What is this G8? And then when I specifically asked him, did Witkoff and Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, his locus standi in such a meeting is another interesting aspect to everything. But he categorically said that this issue came up and I was very clear, I don't want to be part of it. But his interest in, he went to China recently for SCO and now he's coming to India, shows that he has a clear, different view of the world today and the world order today, and he really wants to work on that.
What a scoop, Anjana. What a scoop. Stay with me, Anjana, and we'll continue this conversation. It's brilliant the manner in which, you and Geeta were able to get so much out of President Putin, because many say he's cryptic at times, but this interview, apparently he spoke really long, and I want to come back to that question in just a moment. But let's listen in to President Putin talk about the India growth story in that conversation with Anjana Kashyap and Geeta Mohan of India Today and Aaj Tak.
Dear viewers, hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Aaj Tak India Today and I'm Anjana Kashyap and we're at Kremlin today and you're about to witness history, a very historic moment. It is said that when two old friends meet, they have their private jokes. They have a lot of banter, they have a lot of fun, and they have a bonhomie or camaraderie. But the others in the room might feel a little uncomfortable. And why do I say this? I say this because as the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, meets Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi, the world will be watching very, very closely. Vladimir Putin is undoubtedly one of the most influential politicians of the world whose decisions don't just affect Russia, but numerous nations across the world. He's a very compelling and enigmatic figure on the world stage. It just doesn't get more exciting than this.
Well, that's right, Anjana. Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan. We have with us a man who is known to be one of the world's longest-serving leaders. He's seen it all, through wars and economic recessions, from disintegration of countries to a changed world order, from Boris Yeltsin to Donald Trump, from Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Manmohan Singh to Narendra Modi. He's seen the world change right in front of him, and he's taken Russia through very turbulent times and yet has cemented his position as a force to reckon with. Thank you so much, President, for doing this with us. You're in conversation with India Today and Aaj Tak. That's the President of the Russian Federation for you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on our network. How are you doing?
Надеюсь, что и вам у нас в России.
Well, I do hope that you find it great in Russia, in Moscow. You like Moscow and the Kremlin, where we're working.
По плану.
Well, as you can see, everything is according to plan. On the whole, we're happy with the economic situation, and what's most important this month, I'm very happy that I'm going to meet, as you have just pointed out, my friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We agreed to meet in India a long time ago. There's a lot to talk about because the range of our cooperation with India is very huge. I'm not even talking about history of our relations because this history is of a unique nature. And I would also like to point out that the path that India has traveled since gaining its independence, just over the 77 years, which is a very short span in the scale of history, and India has managed to travel a great way. And I'm going to dwell on that a little bit later. But, you know, when we live our daily lives, we hardly notice the changes that are currently afoot. It rarely happens when we notice these changes. But if we have a look back at the history, we'll see that what transpired in India is, to a large extent, a miracle. Well, I don't think there are many people even in India who know that the longevity, the life expectancy in India over the 77 years has
We
more
will
than
talk
doubled.
about longevity in some time from now.
Хорошо, поговорим обязательно. Но
Yes, we're certainly going to talk about that.
наши отношения
But
с
be
Индией
that as it
развиваются
may,
по
our
очень многим
relations with India are
направлениям.
developing across different ranges, different avenues. I'm very happy to have this chance to meet Prime Minister Modi,
Связывают не только деловые, но и
and not just business ties, but also personal ties.
You spoke about strategic autonomy, which is what India has been talking about. Strategic autonomy, decide for India's interests. But has India reduced Russian intake of oil after pressure from the West?
This interview promises to be a treat to watch. It will make headlines, it will make waves across the world because the world is watching. The world wants to hear one of the most powerful men in the world talk about the road ahead and just ahead of his visit to India. He's arriving in India later this evening. He'll be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So two very strong leaders, two very strong world leaders will be talking about the road ahead in a multipolar world. And President Putin, in that exclusive conversation with Anjana, Kashyap and Geeta Mohan, has very clearly indicated that there is a new world order that's emerging. And that America cannot arm twist India, cannot twist India's tail, impose additional sanctions on India for buying Russian oil at a time when they are buying nuclear fuel from Russia. Those are the global double standards that he's exposed very openly. And that is exactly why India did not buckle under American sanctions. Now, India-America ties are at a different level. India-Russia ties are altogether at a different level. This is a friendship, a partnership that stood the test of time through thick and thin, whether it was the 1971 war or subsequently the Kargil War of 1999, in the United Nations, partnering each other. India has also stood by Russia through thick and thin. And we'll talk about this. So, Geeta, this is a relationship. And Geeta Mohan joins me. Geeta, what a scoop. Great conversation. Starts off very well. Can't wait to hear the whole of this conversation. And I know how hard you worked on this, Geeta. But bring us details, Geeta, of what, according to you, is the biggest takeaway. Is it him exposing the American double standards, talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi thinking India first always, and the partnership between India and Russia that may play a very important role in times to come?
Well, everybody's been waiting to hear President Putin, and in some time from now, we will be listening to the entire conversation, Gaurav, of what he spoke. It was a no-holds-barred interview. President Putin took all questions, the tough ones too, and he responded to every aspect, not just of India-Russia ties, given the fact that he's going to go to India today. It is also about the fact that he addressed all global issues. We did not stop at bilateral. We did not stop at President Putin's visit to India. We spoke about the region. We spoke about the war. In fact, the wars, the Russia-Ukraine war, Israel-Palestine, all of that and more. And more importantly, I'm sure you've heard him talk about or respond to questions from Western media on Trump, the United States of America. Here will be a very interesting perspective on how he put things on Donald Trump. Not characterizing him, certainly not character assassinating him as they do in the West. But yes, speaking of him in perspective, in context of things that are going on, the fact that America is engaging Russia and where are they headed. Also, you know, we were in Moscow, we were at the Kremlin on a very historic day, the day Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were meeting President Putin just a few rooms away. And then the next day, the interview was held. So this is a historic moment in Russia-America ties, as it always has been, no matter what, when it comes to India-Russia. They were just a few rooms away, and the first time Jared Kushner at the Kremlin meeting with President Putin, that meeting was taking place. So yes, he did speak in detail of what that conversation really constituted, not in terms of exactly what they've decided, but more so to do with how they're going to go about things, where they're going to go.